Taken to Massachusetts now, and some dramatic moments in the highly publicized trial of the mom accused of murdering her 3 small children, with the defense making a motion for a mistrial. All right, this is after one of the prosecution's witnesses brought up Lindsay Clancy's religion in relation to her attempt to die by suicide. Watch.
That was part of her expectation, that she and the children would be together in heaven with God. She was raised as a Catholic, and this, as I understand Catholic considerations, that's not necessarily what happens. But when I asked her about that, when I said, isn't suicide a mortal sin?
Yeah, can I see counsel over here?
Now, the defense argued that bringing up religion, that witness bringing up religion was intentionally misconduct by prosecutors. But prosecutors say, hey, the question they asked the witness had nothing to do with religion, that he brought it up on his own. The judge denied the motion, but it does show you just sort of where things are going in court, with closing arguments set to happen this week, we think as early as Wednesday. Now, Lindsay Clancy's attorney says her struggles with postpartum psychosis are what drove her to kill her children in January 2023. But prosecutors say it was part of a calculated plan. They say Clancy deliberately sent her then husband on errands so she could kill her children and then try to die by suicide. The testimony is now winding down in a case that, as you know, as we've covered here, has gotten a ton of national attention. Tens of thousands of people have been clicking on to the live streams every day. These online conspiracy theories are all over the place. I mean, the true crime folks have really laser focused on this one. Just last week, hundreds of people, many wearing pink, gathered outside court to support Clancy. Let me bring in Sue O'Connell, NBC Boston's courtroom insider, who's been watching all of this alongside us outside court tonight for us. Sue, let's talk about that motion for a retrial, right? Typically, they're kind of routine for the defense, right? We've already seen one of those more routine requests from the defense already, even before today. This one today was different, right? Why?
Well, first of all, it wasn't really about today. It ended up being about last week. Remember, last week, Assistant District Attorney Shannon Buckingham asked Lindsay Clancy's mother-in-law if she was a practicing Catholic and if she thought murder was a mortal sin. Kevin Reddington did not object. Actually, the judge interjected himself into that. They were warned about that. You can't ask questions like that generally about people's religion to either impeach a witness or make them seem more reliable. So that happened. Reddington said today he kind of felt it was a strategic error on his part that he didn't file for a mistrial right then and there. So when the words Catholic and mortal sin came out of this witness's mouth, the courtroom just kind of jaws dropped. The judge intervened and gave the jury very, very strong instructions to ignore that and sent them home. But you know, you can't put that genie back in the bottle twice.
The other piece of this, too, I mean, because you and I talked, I think it was last week, Sue, right, about that mortal sin moment with with that witness. Yep. The other interesting thing here is that this psychologist, just before this whole issue of religion came up today, this psychologist had been testifying about his theory about why Lindsay Clancy would have killed her children, right? And this is central to the prosecution's case, it seems, because if they've been arguing that this was premeditated, that she had a plan, that it was calculated, presumably they would also need to argue some kind of a motive as for why that would happen. They don't need a motive, right? That's not like legally required here.
Right. Right. It's not legally required, but it certainly does help a jury understand how a woman goes from being described as a loving mother one day to killing her 3 children the next day. And listen, this witness that was on the stand was perhaps the best witness that the prosecution has had the entire trial until the Catholicism issue popped up. And what he said is, which kind of is in contradiction to what the opening statements of the Commonwealth are, was that she was mentally ill. She might have been having a psychotic episode, but she did know right from wrong. And that's the issue now that the jury's going to have to really weigh. We're down to could have been psychotic, could have been a psychotic break, could have been seriously mentally ill. But did she know right from wrong? This witness was saying she did.
Okay, we're all looking ahead to what prosecutors need to do before arresting, and the jury obviously getting this case. Sue O'Connell, thank you very much. Appreciate you being with us as always. If you or somebody you know is struggling or in emotional distress, there is help. Text 988 or text HOME to the crisis text line at 741-741.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.